All right, Sam back with you here with Thursday, April 26th. We're kind of mid afternoon here. I guess we're 11ish. Per the polling we do every day now, we've got XLM Stellar Lumen up here. This is the 4-hour to Bitcoin on Binance. Now, this is a longtime favorite, and we haven't actually looked at this coin for a while. Just as a reminder, of course, very strong project, market cap of 7 billion. We can see all the scoring here, 70, 85 amongst developers. I mean, this is a monster. This is not going anywhere. So most of it is traded to Bitcoin. You can see pretty good spread here amongst where it's trading. We're going to focus on Binance here, where we've got a little over 30% of that trading. So I've got it up here on this 4-hour here, and just a little bit of review because there's some things worth noting here. This is our critical level as we're going to get off to the hard right edge, but just a few things to note. Just in terms of education, just how you have to deal with the market, and remember, this is not supposed to be easy. So all we're trying to do is look for ways that we can get in here and play without too much risk, without putting too much capital at risk, and maintain all of the upside potential that's there in a project like this. But take note of a few things that happen here on the way down. So we do get our clean 5-wave impulse that takes us all the way up, and then as we start to come down. So if you look at this. So you can see how technical this is. So swing high to swing low. The first one that we see. Well, we get this little reaction. We go right to the 50, and then you can see the reaction. So clear algo activity here. They don't get the target. So typically what'll happen is if you don't get that target, this is where it takes a little bit of trial and error. Now, sometimes they will just keep that same pivot there. And you'll see here, now here we get the break of the 65. And it's more severe if they move down to the new pivot low, where you can see here we come to the 618, we get a reaction, which would suggest to me that they moved it. So they got the reaction there, but then we come up and we get through. Now here's where it's problematic. Look where it goes. Right? So did they stay with it? I mean, here's the tell. Right? As I often will make a point of commenting, the tell on algo activity is not what's happening at the 50 or the 618. That's not the tell. What happens at the targets. That's how you know that it's algo driven. So the fact that we double bottom here on this target would imply to me that these are the pivots they used. And even if so, you look at that and you think, okay, well let me work that through, because this is what Sam is always telling me is happening here. If they worked here with the break, right? So we get the break here. So as I'll often tell you, that does not mean that they turn around and they buy here. That's not what I'm saying. What they will do is with the break, now the next thing that happens is they'll trade the next 50 and 618. So with that broken here, I'm gonna leave that on so you get the drift of it. So from this low to that high, we come down here. So let me take this off so you can see. All right, on the assumption that they flipped. Okay, so here we get a slight, perhaps this could be your front run at the 50 here, looking for that reaction. Now it breaks again. All right, so now they're flipping yet again. So they've taken 2 losers in a row here. Okay, so now we've broken the bull side of it. So we've got to go back to the bear side of it. So now we look here. Okay, so, again, just problematic here. We get a slight break here, then a retest. Now they get to target. So, if you wanted to carry that through, right? So they break that side. So now they go back the other one. Now they're taking small losers along the way. So I would go to the highest high that I had here, back down to the 618, reaction, breaks again. Right, so then now another loser. So we break it again. So now we just continue looking for where can we find them. Now, this looks like perhaps we have a front run on the 38. Perhaps they were using a lower pivot, right? So that would suggest to me possibly here. Now I'm on a 4-hour here, so with a little more detail, I can see that potentially here I have a pivot that they use, swing low. Here's the 50 to the tick, right? Do you see this? It's this process of trying to identify where are they, what did they do last? So even though there was a bunch of missed trades and algos are taking small losses along the way, eventually they get on the right side of it. It's just to pull up any chart in any market and work it through that way. And you'll find that sooner or later they get on the right side of it. Now, was there still an algorithm back here that was working off of these early pivots? Probably, right? And so why do I say that? Because of this reaction down here. right? But you know, if you want to test that theory of how they continually move until they get on the right side of it, like, as I said, you can find it on every chart anytime. I don't care what you're looking at. Eventually, you're going to find it, right? Because that's just what they do. That's how that works. So it's reasonable to think it could have been, for whatever reason. I can't tell you why, but we had sloppiness here. It would appear that they stayed with those pivots, and you know, here's the proof of that, right? The evidence at the target. If I dial that in, it's essentially a double bottom. Now, what else could you use? So you're looking at that going, oh, I'm not sure about that. This got a little sloppy. I don't know. Well, so what other evidence can we build here? Well, first thing I'm going to do, if I've got 3 pivots, I'm going to put a pitchfork on it. Well, we got to get right on it there. That looks pretty good here. So we can see this is kind of interesting. So I get this reaction here. So I've got my market geometry supporting the evidence here that I've got a technical pivot. We get the reaction, come back down. We're going to visit again. We liked it so much. So classic double bottom. So is this the C? Well, you'd have to defer to the most recent low. So potentially now what that gives us here is, you know, we get a reaction down here. So whether that's 1, 2, 3, you know, looks like we'd have to do it that way, or could be that we have this here. All right, so looking here, so we get, there's all our subdivision, 3, 4, 5 in the third, up for the fourth. Yeah, it's probably technical, but clearly they don't get their target on that. But we go 38 to the tick, right? Do you see that? 38 to the tick, roll it back down, double bottom. They don't get the second target, which at that time, your anticipation would have been we were going there, right? But then again, so here's the low, right? So we've hit that target. Here's the break. So if you're thinking algos on the way back, well, you got to work all of them, right? Here's the break now from that one. Now we got to go all the way halfway back. Have not broken it yet. So let me take this one off so you can see what I'm getting at. So if I go swing low all the way, well, we've hit the 50. So see what I'm doing here? I'm just going all the way. Swing high to swing low. Here, the absolute lowest low, which now in hindsight we can look and identify as my 5th of my C. If I put that in a larger degree here for it to make a little more sense. So come here. Okay, so we get this reaction. Now we're at the 50 reaction, right? So that, remember that 50, they don't give, the algorithm does not care about an Elliott wave. That's their target. Do they get it? Well, we shall see. But looks to me like it's pretty good evidence here to support that we've got a technical move off of that low. So knowing that that's there, so we could, of course, just pretty quickly start to identify a potential count on this. Well, I'm sure looks like that's a 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe a 5 up here. So certainly wouldn't be surprising that we come up here and put in a 5th right at that absolute peak of resistance that we're likely to run into. Look up here, right? Look to the left here. So this whole zone, so if we identify that, this certainly wouldn't be surprising to anyone that if we run into resistance right there as to why we're running into it. Is that the 5? You know, well, we don't know. We can certainly look and measure for a relationship between the 3rd and the 4th. Well, here we come right to the 50, right to the Vegas wave. Look where the algo target is, right on top of the 65. All right, what else can we do? We can take the length of the 1, trying to build a case here. We can take the length of the 1, projected from our 4. Do I get anything else there? Well, look where the 100 is, right? The very common target. You see it here in red. Let me wiggle that. So do you see that in red right there by that 5? If I bring that right down to the algo, to the wave 4 low here where they bought at that 50. So we've got this huge confluence of technical support to suggest here that if I'm going to go up here and put in this 5, I've got a lot of resistance to imply that that's a good pivot point that would do nothing other than set up the second wave. Right? So if that's going down, then we're looking at a retrace of the entire thing. So this would be in the largest context. So let me get this, put this in green. So if we think about the larger degree, there's a 1 wave, there's a 2 wave, 3, 4, 5 going up. So let's get that up. We'll take this up so it's easy to spot to intermediate. Okay, so do you see what we're trying to lay out there? We've had our 5 wave. We've had our very long alt winter, the long correction. We get technical pivots down here. Then we start to move away with a motive wave. And it looks like we're going to get an impulse if we continue on here. No reason to assume that we wouldn't. So if that's going to continue to go, we've got a very natural point of resistance up here where we can expect to see a reaction. Just because it's there doesn't mean it can't get through, but I would be surprised if it did without some sort of reaction. Well, if it's completing a one wave, right, with all of this confluence that we have here, what is that setting up? Well, all it's doing is setting up the second wave. So the more conservative person can look at this and go, well, I'll wait for that to confirm that 5. Because this could be an ABC, and this is our 1, 2. Well, we don't know until we see, do we break this pivot here and get that 1? If we do, right, all we're doing now, I'm hypothetical here, so all I'm doing is going from my absolute low. I guess we can get rid of this now. So I'm going from my low down here where we double bottomed here and looking into building a map. Okay, do I have a roadmap here that would play? Well, if this is my 1, I'm expecting this to come down in 3 as an ABC, so maybe I get something along those lines. So there's my ABC setting up for my 2, which sets me up for my big 3. That's what we wait for. We want to be there for the 3 of the 3, right? So there's that, all of this. We know that's going to be very close to the 1618, which is our target for a third. So if I get this all reoriented, so there's our roadmap. Now, can we, with this, get that 3-wave counter trend pattern that we look for to suggest? Remember, basics of Elliott wave. We trend in 5s, we correct in 3s. What kind of breakdown do we get here? What kind of subdivision do we get? I mean, it's all just about as technical as it can get, right? So there, 5-wave impulse, we don't know, but very, very strong indication coming off of this pivot that we're heading towards that target. Then you got to wait, right? Here's the mistake people make. You know, they think they can buy it here. Well, we're coming off of this. We're just going to keep going and going and going. It's just the markets rarely do that, rarely move that way. Because it's just the temptation to take profit for those that bought it here, whether it's algos or not, is just too strong. Is too strong. It takes the slightest little whiff of any. So here, even if we look all the way from the low, right, we get a technical pivot all the more. If I work from the 2, right, if I get it right on, there's my 50, there's my algo target. So that's without. Now, see again, that's without. You could build that case right here just on the reaction of the algo target without considering the all the way halfway back. But you have, as I will always make a point of trying to remind you, you got to consider the other side. Right? There are bears that are in play there as well that don't care about this. They do not care. They started selling it right here. Right? It looks like they're about to come back to their entry, and they're going to defend it right up to that 618, and they're going to flip on the other side of the 65. Now, why is this important to us? So this is actually a key point here. If we get on the other side of this, so if and when we get to the other side of the 65, you have no other algo selling to deal with. Do you see it? So this is my absolute high to my low of this correction. If I get to the other side of the 65, I have no other selling algo resistance to run into, right? Which is why it would not surprise me here that we're going to get a reaction which would start the 2. So we would come back down. So again, hypothetically, right? And take note, I'm hypothetical here. If we come back down to the lower 618, so we just go golden zone to golden zone, that would be very typical, very typical. Here's our wave 1 high, right? We didn't threaten. So, you know, if we come back here, so what do we have here? We just have a fib fight from golden zone to golden zone. You see it all the time in the market. Battle, bulls and bears battling it out. Who's going to win? Well, we defer to the longer term trend. We know we had a technical pivot down here. We've got this good pattern structure here. All looks just perfectly, structure is just perfect for an Elliott count. Right? We've got to buy at the 50. We got an algorithm. It's all there. But the point I'm trying to make is if we come down here, once again, we got to get through that same resistance. But once we get on the other side of it, no selling resistance. No selling resistance. Just blue sky. So if we can come here and get through that, it's clear sailing. Clear sailing. No algo resistance to get through. So if we think about this in terms of whether this can be our 1, this is our 1. Right, so this is why it's worth doing. Well, I propose to you. This is why it's worth doing this work, mapping this out, thinking about where it could go. If we get a 2 here, right? We know our third highest probability zone for our third wave is the 1618, 175 window. Let's put the whole thing together. So from my low, hypothetically, if I get my 1 up here, it's hypothetical. I know. Get my 2 down here at the 618. Look. We just overlap perfectly. So this is my target zone for my wave 3. right up here, highest probability, right? That's all we get as traders is probabilities. What else could I structure there? Well, certainly I'm going to put a pitchfork on it. So if I get my third down here, now I've got a modifier on that. So let's go back to original. We can take off that. We'll go original recipe. I might have to put the 2 on there to get it up there. Yeah, there we go. So I've got to get through that resistance. So that's interesting. So as we come back up, you're going to hit the resistance at the median line. We've got this algo target. Now, again, this is all a function of the amount of time that it takes, because the trading principle, the Andrews trading principle number 1, is that if those pivots hold, we have an 80% probability of making the median line. Let me take that off. 80% probability of making the median line. It's the best odds in trading, right? It's the most underused, underacknowledged, underappreciated technical pattern in the markets. Astonishing to me. But 80% odds of making it there. Here's the algo target. Well, so you think about how could we be getting up there? What's the roadmap to get us up there if we're going there, which we don't know, but if we are, well, there's a logical spot to see a reaction at the algo target, maybe back down here to the lower parallel. Maybe we get through. Maybe we get the 1.5. Right, here's 100%. Here's 1.5, 200%. We get through that. If we do, here's a logical area here. We've got prior resistance potentially there for support. What does that do? It just sets it up for the 1, 2, 3 of the third. There's the third of the third, right? Maybe this all has to move over in time. We don't know what kind of time this is going to take. But now you've got your 1, 2, 3. Is there a 4, 5? Well, odds are that if we've got a motive wave, that's what we're doing. That's how we're going to do it. Right? And just this tendency for the market to continue to return to the mean, return to the median line. Right? All of this may have to all get pushed over because we don't know the length of time. Well, if it takes that long, well, 5's got to get way over here. So we put that all together and say, okay, does this look even remotely possible? How are we going to, is it remotely possible? Well, I would propose to you, given this 5-wave structure here, the corrections in play, I would say that's the most likely scenario, right? If we can hold here and we don't get, we're not heading down here. If we can hold here for a 2, this is a very strong probability, right? So, again, I often come back to the decision matrix and go, why would you not take that trade? Really? I mean, so one reason might be because you like something better, right? In terms of allocating capital, you like something better. There aren't going to be too many that are much better than that, right? Particularly because of this phenomena where if we can get through the 65 here, we have no selling resistance above. Blue sky. Something to think about. All right, guys, I'll wrap it.